Good morning, teacher. I'm Silo Gutierrez, and I'm going to present the subject of immunoassays, focusing more on the indirect ELISA technique. First, I will start with a short introduction about immunoassays. Immunoassays are a set of biochemical techniques used to identify and in some cases quantify a certain target molecule present in a biological sample. The characteristic rationale shared by the different types of immunoassays is that they are all based on a specific antigen-antibody reaction. Types of immunoassays. The types of immunoassays are radioimmunoassay. This technique is used to detect and quantify substances that are found in very small quantities and mixed with many others. Enzyme immunoassay. This is a technique that uses an enzymatic colorimetric system to detect a specific substance in a sample. Fluoroimmunoassay. This is based on the use of fluorescence spectrometry to obtain quantitative results on the presence of a certain antigen in a sample. Immunochromatographic assay. Western blot. In this technique, the proteins present in the biological sample are separated based on their size by electrophoresis to be transferred to a membrane and stained with a specific antibody. And the technique of ELISA. Now I'm going to talk a little more about this last ELISA technique. Due to its simple and fast procedure, ELISA immunoassays are one of the most widely used in research and diagnosis for the identification and or quantification of analytes of a protein nature, such as peptides, proteins, antibodies, and hormones. There are four types of ELISA: direct ELISA, indirect ELISA, sandwich ELISA, and competitive ELISA. Indirect ELISA is a two-step binding process that involves the use of a primary antibody and a labeled secondary antibody. As one of the components, the antibody is labeled with an enzyme and insolubilized on a support. The antigen-antibody reaction will be immobilized and easy revealed by the addition of a specific substrate. Methodology. Indirect ELISA is a two-step process involving the use of a primary antibody and a labeled secondary antibody. The first step in performing this technique is quarantine well with the antigen. Then the sample is added with a mixture of antibodies. This can be a blood sample or some other body fluid. Here occurs the binding of the specific primary antibody to the antigen coded in the wall. A wash is performed on the well to remove excess on-body antibody. Conjugate addition is performed. The conjugate is the enzyme labeled secondary antibody. And here is the binding of the secondary antibody to the primary antibody. A second wash of the well is then performed, but this time to remove its unbound enzyme. The addition of the substrate is carried out and is incubated at the time in which an enzymatic reaction will take place. Here occurs the binding of the substrate to the enzyme, obtaining the product of the reaction. Finally, it's observed if there was color development. The product obtained by adding the substrate causes a visible signal with a color change that allows the detection or quantification of the antibody of interest. Results. In the indirect ELISA, after incubation, a correlation indicates the presence of the antibody. This is a positive result. And the absence of correlation indicates that there is no presence of the antibody. And this is a negative result. As a conclusion, immunoassays are tests that use the binding of antibodies to antigens to identify and measure certain substances. They can be used to diagnose disease. The indirect ELISA technique favors the detection of antibodies. Indirect ELISA detection is versatile as different display markers can be used with the same primary antibody. And that's all from me. Thank you.